Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Sunday, May 29th, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to leave your baseball picks in the comments section below. Now, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at Pickdawgz.com. I'm running a daily $15 MLB best bet, and you can check that out at Pick Dawgz Premium. We've hit 13 of our last 14 best bets, so running pretty good lately, so check that out at Pick Dawgz Premium. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Sunday, May 29th. First up, we see the San Francisco Giants taking on the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to see Alex Cobb and Tyler Mahle as the projected starters for this one. This one an early start time at 11:35 a.m. Now, we have two pitchers with ERAs above 6 this season, but I also think we have two pitchers pitching a lot better than their ERA may suggest. You look at Alex Cobb, 6.25 ERA, but he's got 11.08 Ks per 9, 2.56 walks per 9, so not allowing a lot of walks, and only 0.85 home runs per 9. That gives him a 2.76 FIP and an even better 2.37 xFIP. I think he's going to see sharper numbers in the future in terms of earned runs allowed. There's no way that he can pitch that well in terms of strikeout rate, walk rate, and home run rate and still have an ERA above 6 for too much longer. On the other side, Tyler Mahle, 6.32 ERA, but a 4.3 xFIP and a 3.86 FIP. He's striking out a good amount of batters. The walks have been a little bit of an issue for Mahle, 4.4 walks per 9. So for that reason, I do think Cobb is the better option on the mound. I also think the Giants have the better lineup, although we haven't seen a ton of offense from San Francisco in this series. You know, in that Saturday performance where they lost 3-2, they still had 12 base hits compared to 5 from the Reds. They just weren't hitting with runners in scoring position in that one. I like the Giants in this spot to take a game in this series. I'm going to take them on the money line here. Next up, we see the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Boston Red Sox. Bruce Zimmerman and Nick Pivetta are your starters here. Now, we see a very high total in this game. It's the steepest total of the day in baseball of 10, and I like the over in this one at Fenway Park. We've seen both of these teams light up the scoreboard as of late. We saw in Game 1 of the series a 12-8 final score in Baltimore's favor. And Nick Pivetta, sure, he's looked better in his last few starts than he did at the beginning of the season, but he's still not a starter I can back right now. 6 home runs allowed already on the season, and he's given up at least 1 homer in his last 2 starts as well. Bruce Zimmerman on the other side started off the season really strong for the Orioles, but has struggled a little bit as of late. We saw last time out he got absolutely rocked by the New York Yankees. 6 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, and 4 home runs allowed. He's given up 7 home runs in his last 3 outings combined. That's not going to get it done at Fenway Park and at a Red Sox offense that is surging. I'm going to take the over in the Orioles-Red Sox. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Washington Nationals. Kyle Freeland and Josiah Gray are your starters. Now, I don't like taking the Rockies on the road, and this is another spot where I am going to fade them on the road here. Kyle Freeland, isn't the worst starting pitching option for the Rockies, but he's also not the best. 4.6 ERA this season. I know he's fared better on the road than he has at home, but the offense has really struggled away from home for Colorado this season, especially against right-handed pitching, where they're near the bottom in team OPS numbers against righties away from home. Josiah Gray, I think, has a lot of upside in this game. I know he hasn't always been the sharpest on the mound. In the last few starts, he has been giving up plenty of home runs, but I also think he's been facing a lot tougher lineups. He faced the Angels back on May the 7th, one of the top lineups in baseball. The Astros on May 13th, another really good offense. The Marlins on the road, you wouldn't think it, but the Marlins are top 10 in team OPS against righties this season, so not an easy team to face there. And then he took on the Dodgers last time out on May 24th. So now you're facing a Colorado Rockies team, like I just mentioned, one of the worst teams in team OPS on the road against righties this season. I think this is a good bounce-back start for Gray. I'm going to take the Nationals. I think the bats back up Gray in this spot. I'm going to take him on the money line. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Luis Severino and Shane McClanahan are your starters here. Now, this has been a tricky series for me overall. In Game 4, I do think the value is with the Yankees in this spot, getting the plus money. I think Shane McClanahan is the favorite to win the American League Cy Young, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him pitch well overall in this game. but he's going up against another tough starter in Luis Severino, and the Rays bats haven't been the strongest in this series, especially against the Yankee starters. And the only issue I have in McClanahan's game this season is the fact that when he does get hit, he usually gets hit pretty hard. He's in the bottom 44th percentile in average exit velocity and the bottom 42nd percentile in barrel percentage, so he is susceptible to the long ball. And we've seen the Yankees hit plenty of home runs, not only in this series, but all season long, and against left-handed pitching. So I do think they can hit one or two, maybe solo home runs, or if there's a couple runners on base, drive a couple in on a home run in this start for McClanahan, and that might be enough to win this game. We've seen some low-scoring contests in this series, and a 3-1 final score for the Yankees' favor wouldn't surprise me. So I lean towards the under and the New York Yankees on the money line. Next up, we see the Miami Marlins taking on the Atlanta Braves. Eliezer Hernandez and Max Fried are your projected starters. Now, the Marlins, they have been able to take 4 games in this season series already. It's tied at 4 games apiece. But most of these games, the Marlins have been the underdog. So impressive to see Miami compete in this season series with the defending champs. But this is not a game that I think they compete in. I'm going to take the Braves here on the money line and lay the run line as well. Max Fried, not only is he having a strong season, but he has a really beneficial matchup here against the Marlins lineup that has not hit lefties well at all this season. They're ranked 22nd in isolated power against left-handed pitching, and the Marlins are ranked 29th in baseball and team OPS against lefties. And with Eliezer Hernandez on the mound for Miami, a pitcher that has struggled against the Braves in this season and in recent years, and has had big issues with the home run ball this year and in his career. 11 home runs allowed this year at 39 2/3 innings. Not going to get it done against a Braves lineup that is very powerful. Sure, they strike out a good amount of times, and they've had some underperformers in the lineup this season, to say the least. But they're still in the top 10 in isolated power against right-handed pitching this season. I think they find 1 or 2 home runs on Hernandez. I think the bullpen can take care of the rest. So I'm going to take the Braves here on the run line. Next up, we see the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Detroit Tigers. Tristan McKenzie and Elvin Rodriguez are your starters. Now, the Tigers were able to win the first game of the series, but I think that's the only win they're going to get in this 3-game set, as I do like the Guardians on the money line in Sunday's contest. You look at Elvin Rodriguez, he's only pitched 7 2/3 innings this year, but they have not been very sharp innings. 8 earned runs allowed, 2 home runs, a home run in each of his first 2 starts, and he's also given up 5 walks to only 6 strikeouts this season. So, not a very large sample size, but he is a right-handed pitcher, and we know the Guardians have crushed righties this season. Top 10 in baseball in team OPS against righties, and top 10 in isolated power against righties. I think their lineup proved on Saturday that it is the much better side in this series. The Tigers, although Tristan McKenzie I do worry about some regression in his game this season. I don't think he's pitching nearly as well as that 2.7 ERA may suggest. I still think he's the better option here, and I think the Tigers lineup has just struggled so badly this season. A real big surprise when you see their moves that they made in the offseason, but they're dead last right now in team OPS against right-handed pitching and dead last in isolated power against right-handed pitching. I got to take the Guardians in this spot on the money line. Next up, we see the North Side battling the South Side, and the Cubs and the White Sox. Marcus Stroman and Dylan Cease are your starters. Now, at first we saw Wade Miley as the projected starter for the Cubs, and that had me liking the White Sox a good amount, as we know White Sox crush left-handed pitching this season and in years past. But I still think they're going to be able to get to Stroman, and I do think Cease bounces back from his worst start of the year. It was a really outlier performance from Cease, and what's really been a strong season for him thus far. I'm not too worried about it. If he continues to pitch like that, obviously somebody we're going to have to look at fade going forward, but I do think he bounces back against an overall pretty weak Cubs lineup. We know we know Marcus Stroman has not pitched too well for his new club in Chicago this year. As of late, hasn't pitched too poorly, but still given up a home run in 3 of his last 5 outings. And when he's faced tougher competition, teams like the Tampa Bay Rays, teams like the Colorado Rockies at Coors Field, we've seen him struggle the most. I think the White Sox do enough against Stroman to get the win in this spot, but not my favorite game on the board. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Minnesota Twins. Zach Greinke and Sonny Gray are your starters here. Now, we were on the Royals on Saturday as our best bet on the run line, but they were able to win it outright. But I'm going to flip sides here and take the Twins on the run line in this spot. I think this is a big-time pitching mismatch. Although the Royals bats have impressed me lately, I do think Sonny Gray pitches well in this spot. He has had a good season for the Twins this season with a 2.6 ERA, coming off a dazzling start against the Tigers where he went 7 innings of 10 strikeout, no earned run ball. And on the other side, Zach Greinke. Do I have to say anything more about Greinke? You guys know my opinion on his game. We're starting to see the regression. I've mentioned it before. At the beginning of the season, he actually had a decent ERA. I said, I wouldn't hold your breath. Look at his numbers, and look what happened last time against the Diamondbacks. 7 earned runs, 2 home runs, 4 walks, 3 2/3 innings. He actually had 5 strikeouts, so it's more than we're used to seeing from Greinke, but still not a viable starting pitching option. I lean towards the over in this game, but I also got to take the Twins on the run line. Next up, we see the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Corbin Burnes and Miles Mikolas are your starters in this one. Good pitching matchup we have here. 2 of the stronger starters, maybe the strongest starters in the NL Central this season. Mikolas, a sub-2 ERA at 1.96, and Corbin Burnes, the reigning NL Cy Young winner, not too shabby at 2.18 ERA as well. Mikolas did struggle a little bit towards the end of his outing last time out against the Blue Jays. 4 hits, 3 earned runs, and a home run was his final line with 5 strikeouts. I do think Burnes is the better option on the mound here, and I also know that the Brewers hit righties better than the Cardinals do this season. Add to the fact that the Brewers have the better bullpen, I'm going to take Milwaukee in this spot on the money line. This has been a really tricky series for me, but I do think Milwaukee takes this one. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Oakland Athletics. Dane Dunning and James Kaprielian are your starters here. And I think the Rangers have made it loud and clear that they are the much better team in this series. The Oakland A's have struggled with situational scoring, and when the games have mattered most, the offense has really struggled. We've seen them overall this season ranked 29th in baseball in team OPS against right-handed pitching and 28th in baseball in isolated power against righties. Dane Dunning, sure, he struggled last time out, but that was against the Los Angeles Angels, one of the better lineups in baseball right now. He's not facing the Angels in this spot. He's facing a really struggling Oakland A's lineup that has not played well at home at all this year. 6-17, a home record this year. While the Rangers, although they're under 500 by a game on the year, they're still a game above 500 on the road this season. They played really well in the underdog role, and although we're not going to probably get them as an underdog for too much longer, shop those lines, I'm going to take the Rangers here on the money line. Next up, we see the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Jose Barrios and Patrick Sandoval are your starters here. Now, I'm surprised to see the Angels are not bigger favorites in this matchup. I would have swore that going up against Barrios, a starter that has struggled quite a bit in 2022, that the Angels, a team that's crushed righties this season, would be bigger favorites at home. They have the much better starting pitcher on the mound right now. I know Patrick Sandoval is not going to keep that 1.79 ERA. He's certainly going to regress a bit, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the Blue Jays score a few runs on him in this spot. But Jose Barrios is in the bottom 11th percentile in average exit velo, bottom 12th percentile in hard hit percentage, bottom 4th percentile in expected ERA, expected batting average, expected slugging, 9th in barrel percentage, 9th in whiff percentage. He is really one of the weaker starting pitchers in the league right now, and he's going up against an Angels lineup that's number 2 in baseball in isolated power against righties and number 3 in baseball in team OPS against righties. I know the Blue Jays are a tough team on paper, and they have played well in this series thus far, but I got to take the Angels in this spot and continue to fade Barrios. Next up, we see the Houston Astros taking on the Seattle Mariners. Marco Gonzalez and Luis Garcia are the probable starters here. Now, this is a tough game for me, but I am going to take the Astros on the money line here. I know the Mariners play their best ball at home this season, but Marco Gonzalez coming off a really bad start against the Oakland Athletics, and he's facing a much tougher lineup here. In that start against Oakland, 8 hits, 5 earned runs, and a home run. And we know the home run ball has really hurt Gonzalez in his career and in this season. 9 home runs allowed already in 43 in the third innings this season, and only 27 strikeouts in those innings as well, with a 1.5 whip. I cannot back Marco in this spot. Luis Garcia hasn't been the sharpest in his last few outings, but he's faced much tougher in the Red Sox and the Guardians in his last 2 starts. I think he pitches well enough to give the Astros the win here, so I'm going to take Houston on the money line. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Tyler Anderson and Zach Davies are your starters. Now, I don't put really much of anything into the starting pitcher win-loss record, but Tyler Anderson is 5-0 this season, and the Dodgers have really played well with him on the mound, run support-wise. You look at his last 5 starts, the Dodgers have won 4 of those last 5, and in all 4 of those wins, they covered the run line, and usually by more than 3 runs, 10-1, 12-3, 6-2, 5-1. So the Dodgers are getting him a lot of run support, and I think they're going to get plenty in this spot against Zach Davies. Sure, Zach Davies has been able to limit hard contact, which is important for a guy like him who doesn't strike out a lot of batters to begin with. But the Dodgers are number 1 in baseball in team OPS against righties and isolated power against righties, and I just don't think Davies is going to pitch well enough to keep his team in this game. The Diamondbacks have struggled more against lefties than they have righties this season, and Tyler Anderson has limited hard contact himself. Diamondbacks are really reliant on the home run ball this season, and I do think the Dodgers win this game yet again. You know, you got to lay a kind of a heavy price, but I think it's the only way to go. So I'm going to lay the Dodgers run line in this spot. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the San Diego Padres. Now, both teams prefer left-handed pitching offensively, but only one of them is going to see a lefty in this one, and that's the Pirates. They're going to see Mackenzie Gore. I do think the Pirates can score enough here to keep this game close. Roansy Contreras on the mound for Pittsburgh has been sharp this season. Hasn't had a lot of work this year, but in his one start this season, 5 innings, shutout baseball, 5 strikeouts, and out of the bullpen, he's also pitched well for the Pirates. Like I mentioned, the Padres prefer left-handed pitching, but they're not going to see a lefty to start this game. I think Contreras keeps the Pirates in this game early. I lean towards them in the first 5 innings, but in the full game, I'm going to take them on the run line here, getting the 1.5 runs. In our next game, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the New York Mets. This is going to be our final game of the night on ESPN2, Sunday Night Baseball. Zach Wheeler and Chris Bassett are your starters. Now, I mentioned in Chris Bassett's start against the Giants that I was a little bit worried about him going into that one, as I saw how he pitched against the Cardinals, and I wasn't impressed. He was hanging pitches. He gave up 2 home runs in that one and 9 base hits total against the Cardinals lineup that's not the best against righties. So I was a little bit weary of him going into that start against the Giants. And against San Francisco, he struggled even worse. 8 hits, 8 earned runs, 3 home runs, in only 4 1/3 innings. And I cannot back him in this spot going up against Zach Wheeler. I know the Mets lineup has been great against righties. I know Zach Wheeler has been inconsistent at times, but I still think he's the much better option on the mound in this spot. I lean towards the Phillies in the first 5 innings, but I do like him in the full game as well. Getting the plus money on the money line. This is the type of game the Phillies cannot waste. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday, May 29th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to leave your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.